Cool. So what we said yesterday is that use state and use effect can be used interchangeably, right? If you have primitive data types like numbers, booleans, or strings, and if you just like a couple state variables in your application, then it's definitely makes sense to use just stick with the use state. All right, but if you have a array of objects, or you are some sort of updating array of objects, or your status object like a form data, okay, and if your state is very complex, it contains a lot of things to be changed inside the state, then it does make sense. And also if you have multiple state variables, okay, it makes sense to use reducer or context API, which you guys will see it next Thursday, I believe. Yeah, Kanwek will teach you guys next Thursday the context API. So I don't want to go there, and I can teach you guys, but it's his turn on next Thursday. So we'll leave it there. All right, cool. So in a typical regular example for fetching data in our React components. Okay, so for this example, I would like to use Axios. Cool. All right, we can use Axios. So who can tell me what is well, anyway, we'll get to that point. All right, so let me just copy this guy and paste it over there. I have a very simple application which we will use use state. Okay, let me import these guys first. Use state and use effect. Okay, we got them, and now I need to get my URL too. All right, so you guys definitely can follow me on this link. I will share you guys right now. I shared in the Zoom chat. Okay, it's very simple application. Of course, I forgot to import my Axios. All right, so if you are using third-party package like Axios, you definitely need to import it. Let me see the result over here. Inspect, network, and slow to retrieve. If I refresh, I will see my loading, and as soon as I get my data, it'll just display the data. Okay, there's nothing special about this component. So we have the three states: users, set users, error, set error, and inside the user effect, as you guys know, this is the dependency array. It will only run, right? User effect will run this function only one time when our component loads up in the UI. You know, when a component mounts. Questions? Okay, so interesting. Did it really said that? Let me refresh the page. Maybe you guys will see it now. How about now? Try it now. We good? You guys see it?
No, it's still not seeing it. But yeah, never mind. Yeah, you can go ahead and do it just you can send the code later.
What's that saying? Is it because of this guy right here? Lock group, what is that lock group? Or maybe I accidentally clicked that lock group. Can you guys try now? Yeah, I think it was a lock group clicked on. Can someone please click the link and tell me if it's working or not?
Yeah, same for me, but so maybe it works for other students.
Or
No,
someone else?
the same thing.
Okay.
It's not loading?
No. No.
Same box not found.
But let me just do something. No, still no.
Okay. Yeah, so I shared in the Slack. That's fine. You guys can create a new sandbox, and then only you have access. Ooh, public, everyone has access.
Okay.
Live session. All right, how about now? Let's try now. It should be good now.
Yeah, now it's fetching, opening. Yep. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, so, sorry about that. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, cool. So it's very simple application, right? We're just fetching the data, and as you guys know, Axios uses get, right, compared to fetch. And also, we only have a single promise chain, .then, right? Compared to fetch, we have a double. The first one we need to get the JSON and then convert to a regular object, and then in the next .then we need to we'll have access to that data. But here we have single .then, but in order to access this data, the array of objects, we have to do data.data, okay? Because this data contains other information too. And then we'll just setting the users, our state variable. And if there's an error, right? If I have any error down here, let me just type a 22. Okay, request, fill it with status code 404. So it's loading, and then we should be able to see the error. What am I doing over here? If it's loading, right? If it's true, then show the loading. If it's false, and we need to compare, we need to see if there's an error. If there is an error, show the error. If there is no error, then we should be able to display our UI. So how can I convert this guy right here into user reducer, right? How can I convert this use state to user reducer? What I can do here is, oh, it's not allowing me. Interesting. So I can just do app use state.jsx and paste it over here. Okay, and this one would be use reducer. What we said last time was that we need. All right, so what we need for use reducer, just like we create our use state the state variables, we need to create state. It's an object, right? And then we have dispatch. It's a function that is provided by use reducer. Okay, use reducer accepts three arguments, but the third one is an optional. Okay, so reducer function, the first one, and the initial state. Right, so initial state, as you guys know, constant initial state, it's an object. I'm thinking about loading. Okay, it's true, just like whatever we have over here, we're just trying to put it over there. Users, empty array, and error, let's put it null. And now we need to create our reducer function. Right? As we were saying that whenever dispatch any action, right, action type, we were running this reducer, and reducer was accepting two parameters. The first one is the previous version of state, previous value of the state. All right. Initially, it contains initial state, but still, it is previous state. And the second one is action. Okay, so we can destructure our action with the type and just action. Okay, and then based on the type, let me use this guy right here. Based on the type, we were deciding the case. Okay, so in this case, since we will be fetching some data, right? We need to imitate this part right here. We need to imitate this part. We're trying to dispatch these guys if there is a data, and we're trying to dispatch these guys if there is an error, right? Based on that, we will display our users in the UI. So what we can do here is that it's not about clicking something, right? As soon as our component loads up, we're trying to run use effect, and we should be able to dispatch automatically instead of like clicking the button and then increasing the count. Okay, we're not doing that. As soon as our component loads up inside our XCS, as soon as we get the data, we will start to run our dispatch with the type, or if there is an error, we'll run some sort of error dispatch, right? So the type would be anything you can put for the type, right? It depends on you. Let's say it as fetch success. Right? If the fetch is successfully fetched, return. Now, what we are returning, we don't need this. As soon as we return it, we don't need this break anymore since we are already returning it. So, if the fetch is successful, as you guys know right here, what we are returning, we're returning loading false, right? And then we are returning. So right over here, we need the payload. Okay, since we are updating data, right? We're updating our user's state variable as soon as we fetch the data. Okay, we need to make sure that when we are dispatching, we need to send down. Okay, when we are dispatching, the type would be, as you guys know, the type would be this guy right here. Okay, and at the same time, a payload. Now, this can be anything, guys. You can name it anything, either data or fetched data, whatever you name it. Okay, but the convention is that we need to use type and payload, right, as much as necessary, because it's just the convention that we use when we are using user reducer or Redux. Okay, so the payload would be data.data. So data.data is array of objects. Okay, so now the payload is inside what? Action object. Now we get the payload, and now if the fetch is successful, now I can assign this payload back to users. And what's going to happen for error? No. If the fetch is successful, we don't have any error, so it's null. All right, so we can do the same thing for fetch error. Okay, fetch error. In this case, of course, loading will be false. We don't have any payload. We can just do empty array. Okay, so error is also would be payload. Okay, because what we are doing here is when we get the error, we are updating our error state variable with error.message. Okay, we can either do a payload or you can just type your own custom hard-coded string. Okay, you can definitely do that. and as you can return that error with your custom state. But if you would like to show whatever the fetching returns when we reach out to the API endpoint, then you can definitely put that message from API endpoint error return. Okay, so by default, we'll just return state. This is our updated state. Okay. So the one important thing about this using use reducer is that okay, use reducer is that do not update, okay, do not update the state directly right here. Don't mutate an object in state like this. Don't do that. Like state.age or state.age plus 1. Do not do that. Okay, it says do not do any change inside here. Never do that. Because we need to keep the immutability of our state, right? When we are returning, we need to return the updated state. We should not directly update our state. I state that loading is equal to false. Do not do that. We need to return the updated state like this, and then the state will be updated like that. But this one is directly updating the state variable. That's what it says. Okay, do
So
not do.
we can only spread it, yeah, and then like update it. Or destructure it first.
Well, if you are updating the state with the use reducer, always return the updated state like this. Return a new object. And that's going to be your updated state. Right? Initial, this one is initial state. And this one, when you return this guy right here, it's completely different state right now. All right, so state is read-only. Don't modify any objects or erase in state. Do not mutate like that. Instead, always return new objects from your reducer. Right? We need to keep the remaining state variables, and whatever we're changing it, we need to change it like that. All right, so fetch error, loading false, users, error, payload, blah, blah, blah.
So Azamat is all changes is temporary. The
What?
original.
Can you say that again, please?
The state will be same. I mean, after this changes will not change original state, right? It will be temporary.
So
Yes.
the initial state, when our component loads up, we already set the initial state, right? Loading is true, users, error, null. And then as soon as our use effect runs, right, our component mounted already, finished mounting, and now our use effect is running, and we run the Axios. Okay, so now let's remove these guys because we're not going to be using them anymore. Right, so now inside our use effect, instead of set loading, blah, 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 we can just turn on this guy right here. This guy will run automatically as soon as our component mounts, and use effect will run this callback function, right? And then we'll start fetching data. And as soon as our data is available for us, we can dispatch our action type. So the action type is fetch success, payload, data. Okay, so now at the end of the right here, you can definitely destructure your state variables, right? Loading, error, users from state itself. Okay, so now as you guys can see, refresh, we can see the loading state. It's a little bit faster, but we can see it over here. Right, loading. As soon as our data is ready, now we're using use reducer. But what about this guy right here? We can do the same thing, right? So let's just copy this guy over here, put it over there. Now the type would be fetch error. The payload would be error. Actually, it's error that message. Error that message. Okay, so if I change my request failed with status code 404, right? So we're loading it again. Our loading state variable will run. Now, request failed with status code 404. This is what we see.
Azamat, yeah, email we do when we switch, we have two cases and we return each time. So that changes is not mutate original state, right? It's
Of course, as soon as our we have a switch, right? When our user effect runs, it will definitely replace the original state because we are dispatching when we dispatch, we are sending out a new payload, right? When we dispatch type fetch success, we run this reducer, and the state is previous state, okay? And then we come down here, action. The type is fetch success. Okay, then I need to go right over here. I go inside, and then loading will be false. Users is payload. The payload I'm sending down from my data.data, right? I'm assigning the payload to users, and then error is null, and I'm returning this state right here. Right?
Yeah.
Since the data is available for us, we're not running this part right here. Okay, that's why we are running only this case right here. But just in case if there is an error with the fetching, then we will dispatch this guy, and then we will run this case, and we will return new state and update the original state.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Thanks.
Okay, so in the use state right here, if I click, let's say there was a count, if I click button, I'm updating the state, right? I'm updating the state. Basically, I'm dispatching some type of action and updating the state. Well, similarly, okay, so we're not clicking anything right now. We don't have any handle events. Okay, but we have use effect, and we are running Axios to fetch the data. Right? I'm trying to say, guys, we dispatch things, not only we have like a handle the functions, right? Clicking the button or typing inside input. Okay, we can definitely use effect to handle the side effects.
Azamat, do you have some limit for this? Dispatch has properties. We have a 2 right now. Can we have like 10, just for example?
Of course, yeah, you can definitely put something else. It's up to you, but it depends on what you're gonna do with those things over here. All right. So let's say count. Let's say, I don't know, number, but you should definitely provide something over here. Okay. Let's say number is 100, and do I have count? I said, I think, yeah. Let's just yeah, number count. For instance, counting. Okay, it's up to you guys, but the thing about what you're gonna do with this count number, okay? Console.log count and number. Oops. Okay, so right now we're still running, right? We're still running dispatching this part right here, but we don't have anything related to number and count. But as soon as our data is not available for us, if there's an error, now we should be able to see count 100. Okay, so it depends on, it's just a regular object, guys, all right? With the dispatch, we're just dispatching regular object right here. Right? And then we have to have a type, fetch success, and payload data. Right? The thing about it is that, guys, it doesn't have to be object, right? You can just pass it down like this. The type by itself. Just a string. Okay? But the thing about is that you will not have access to the payload. You will not have access to the payload. Okay, so let me just something else. Object, and name Alex. Okay, so fetch success, right? But it's not gonna be the type. It's gonna be action by itself, right? It's gonna be action by itself. Count is not defined, and let me just comment out. As you guys can see, I still can see my username's Alex because I typed like this. But the convention is that it makes sense to, right? If you have to send a payload to, you cannot send it like this. You cannot do that. Okay, because our action is only one, right? So you cannot combine these two separate things into one. You cannot do that. You cannot assign two separate variables into one, two separate values into one object, into one variable. Okay, so you need to wrap it into an object and make that a single object, which is action. All right, so you need to just do payload. Okay, any questions?
No, by now.
Cool. So, do you guys know can we fetch two URLs at the same time using fetch?
Yeah, we did something like this. It's kind of big.
Oh, you guys, which one did you guys use?
Like we used fetch
Okay.
to fetch two URLs. Different.
No, we used hold and then something
No, it's
something was
with
yeah with
Axios,
Axios.
but before we did with fetch also. This yeah.
Import. No.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys did it, then I don't have to show it to you guys. I mean, I was gonna show that we can fetch it two URLs
No, we didn't do it.
With
Uh,
Axios or
with Axios. Yeah.
The Mario only showed us how to do it, how to fetch the data with Axios, but you're showing us how to do with the deal with the use reducer too, yeah? Combined.
Yeah,
Just-
we can definitely do that, but I'm trying to show you guys how to fetch two URLs at the same time. Okay, with Axios.all. Did you guys see that?
but I want to
Mario showed us
yeah, because
last time.
if you can,
Yep.
I would like to
Oh, okay.
see
Yeah,
if you can,
let's just refresh our mind to be able to use um how to fetch two URLs at the same time. Okay, so for now I have users over here. Let me click JSON placeholder post this. This is gonna be post this. This is gonna be post this URL. Okay, so when we fetch two data, like let me create, we're not using user reducer for now. Okay, we'll just use regular states. New state, empty array. Same thing for hostess. Hostess, hostess. Empty array. Okay, so I have to do, I will create two functions, one for get users, okay, and it's going to be async. Okay, of course, try catch, we can definitely utilize with the try catch. All right, so when we are using fetch, we were doing constant res, right, and then await fetch, blah blah blah. But with the Axios, as I was saying, we will get the data right away. We don't have to use res.json to convert JSON object to regular object or array. So with this Axios, you can just do get and then put the URL. Okay, so users URL. Now this response is actually an object inside this. This is actually in data, right? It's an object. So previously we said data.data, right? When we were getting it, data.data. So if this one is an object, I can just destructure it. Why am I opening that one? I can just destructure this guy right here and put data. This is my data. And then I can just update my state with data. If there's an error, console.log, let's just console.log for now, without error. Okay. Same thing with get posters. In this case, I need to use posters URL and set posters. So now, as soon as I run my use effect, I can run both of my functions, right? Get users and get posters. Get users and get posters. Cancel. So let's just don't worry about this loading state. Okay, let's just try to display our thing right away. Okay, so of course, instead of using the previous JSX, I would like to use this guy right here. And I hope you guys still have access. This is still public. Everyone can access. Okay. You guys can definitely fork it or update your own code sandbox. Cool. So what am I doing here is that I have users and posters, and I'm using JSON stringify just to display my object or array inside over here in my UI. Something is wrong with that. Oh, okay. So one thing we forgot was it's just a small styling for our table. Okay. No, that's not what I want. Is this guy right here? Preview. Yeah. This is what I see in the UI. Okay. I'm using two functions, two fetch functions. I mean, access get functions individually, and I'm fetching my data.
Azamat,
Yes.
Mario said that when we are using Axios, it's itself asynchronous, so we don't need to use async await for that. Is it true? I mean, is here some reason to use async await?
That's a good question. Let's ask. We have. Oh my goodness, I cannot even type. I have to use async await with Axios. Async. I mean, this guy is using async, so why use async await with Axios? Conclusion: combining async await with Axios creates a powerful duo for handling asynchronous operations in JavaScript. This pattern enhances code readability. Well, as far as I know, is that when Axios is returning a promise, right? It's basically we're trying to reach out to the external network, like API endpoint. And we don't know whether that API endpoint returns a success or returns failure, okay? So it will take some time to get the data or the image or whatever you're trying to get from a remote location. So I would say that always use async await, but I'm not aware if Axios does support without the async await, right? So how about we try it out? So let's take it out. How about that? We're not able to see our users. We don't have any users. Okay, we don't have any users. What happens to this guy right here? Console.log. Okay, console.log. Promise. As I was saying, that it returns a promise. In order to deal with the promises, what we do? Usually we do .then, right? Chain promising, or we use async await. So I would say that we definitely have to use async await.
Azamat, are you creating two different functions to get two different endpoints now?
Yes, that's what we did. But there is better option.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because Mario, you used two endpoints inside the Axios. So is that all right? I believe, and it was
Yes.
inside the array. So I think that's why he said no need to use that await. So async await.
Confused with syntaxes. In the previous, I see your repositories. You use then for Axios always. Now you don't use then. What reason?
You mean
And
this is right here?
I
No,
don't.
no, we use. I think we use.
Yeah, you can definitely convert this to async await. It's definitely fine, right? It's just it's up to you guys to use async await or just .then, right?
They're doing something.
Huh? Yeah, of course.
Okay.
They would do the same thing, but this is just it to me it just looks neater, right? Compared to .then and .get. I mean .get you have to definitely use it, but yeah, this promise chaining, it looks a little bit for some folk it might look a little bit confusing, but yeah, right here we'll just wait. We need to wait for this guy first, right? To be resolved. What happens if you type console log over here? Since console log is what? Is synchronous, right? I think I showed you guys this one before. So we have this guy right here before, this guy is after, right? Since in all right, cool. So since we are using async await, since this console log is synchronous, we are assuming that the before will run and then console log after will run, and then we'll fetch data, right? That's not the case with this one. First of all, we console log before, right? And then we fetch the data. Before we run this guy, we need to fetch the data because we have await. We are awaiting that fetch. So you need to type console.log data over here so that we can see the data, okay? If I refresh the page now, as you guys can see, before is over here, and now we have data, and then we're typing after. What happens if you remove this guy right here? Okay, before, and then we have undefined because it's not defined. And after, and before, undefined, after. It's not defined. So as soon as you put await, the JavaScript, right, will wait for the for this guy to respond, and our data is available for us, and we are able to show our data, and then console.log after will run. Okay, so in this case, we have two separate fetch functions, which we are trying to fetch. We can combine these using Axios all. Okay, we can combine these using Axios all. So add that to that JSX or just JS maybe. Is this guy still accepting? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if you put JSX or JS, right? So what we can do here is that Axios all, instead of fetching separately, we can write a single function over here, okay? Most of the time, React says that if you are using async await inside use effect, do not do this one, okay? Don't put this async, so you will see some error down here, okay? But in order to run async await function, try to create a function inside over here. Fetch all. Oops. Fetch all, and it's going to be async function. Wow. Is it really updating really fast? And then run this fetch all function over here. Okay. What we are going to do inside fetch all is, I'll just grab this guy right here. Okay, try await Axios.get. Instead of get, I can use all. Okay, instead of get, I can use all. So now, of course, inside over here, all accepts an array. An array of individual guys right here. Right? Individual guys like this. Okay, so it's going to be Axios.get users URL, Axios.get hostess URL. What we can do here is that we can convert these guys over here. So we don't need this try anymore. Okay, we don't need this try anymore. We also definitely don't have to make these guys async function, right? We can just do regular function. Right? We can just do regular function, and we would like to make sure that this function returns this guy right here, Axios.get users URL, and this function returns Axios.host URL. All right, and then right over here, we would like to say get users and invoke this function, which will return Axios.get users URL. Okay, and then get posters, invoke this function inside it. All right, so when we use Axios.all inside Axios.all inside parentheses, we are using array of individual Axios.get URLs. Okay, but when it's returning, since we are providing as an array all our calls, it will return an array. All right, and the array will contain whatever you put get over here. It will correspond to that the first item, which is going to be users. The next one will be posters, right? If you confuse that and put this posters before, then you have a problem, okay? If you put posters before users, now you will get users assigned to the posters and posters assigned to the users, right? The placement of the location of these guys will correspond. It's like a destructuring the what? Destructuring our arrays. The first item goes to the first one, the second one, blah, 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 right? We're basically destructuring our arrays. So now, instead of using two of those, we can just do set users. We'll go to users, right? And then set, the thing about this is that I put as users, right? It's not gonna be users by itself. As I was saying that we are returning data, right? Data, okay? So users is this one. So we need to pass users.data. And this guy, same thing, posts.data. Okay, so it doesn't matter what you name down here, whatever is returning. Okay, you can definitely name it data1, data2, and then data1.data and data2.data. Okay, it doesn't matter. The naming of these variables, when you destructure the array that is being returned from this promise, it doesn't matter. You can name it anything you want, right? But when you are getting the data inside these guys, you have to type data. And now we are able to see our data in the UI.
The Azamat all and get it its methods, right? Access get, what is it? All get.
So Axios.get is, yes, it's a method.
Call it method, yeah. So
Yeah,
all
it's a method.
all is not getting promise, right? It's just
All is also returning a promise.
but
Okay?
we
So it's not a method, but it belongs to Axios, right? It's a proprietary method that belongs to Axios, right? Well, basically, what it's that is just combining these guys over here, but which are using get method, right? These guys are using get method. But Axios as a functionality that has that can combine these multiple requests in a single array and can return those the API endpoint returns response to the array of variables.
Does it sense it once or twice? Like for the each request?
Well, I'm not sure how under the hood it works, but it definitely. Are you asking that if?
Yeah, it accepts two promises, right? Like
Right. Yes.
yeah, and because of that, like it could easily write just Axios get and Axios get, but what's the purpose of using all then?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, why not?
Like maybe they send it once only, maybe, yeah, somehow.
I mean, if it doesn't, I mean, they cannot send only once, though, right? I mean, we're just calling once, but they're going to the separate, to two separate at endpoints, right? This one is going to posters, and the other one is going to the user.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
it's just
got
going
it.
to a separate endpoint, but we're sending them together in a single call instead of
Mhm.
calling them separately.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, other than that, it's this is how we can use Axios all. Now you can definitely try to make it like separate these guys into its own variable, right? For instance, we can do constant requests is equal to, okay? So it's gonna be basically these guys are the array, okay? And then you just put requests, right? You don't have to put these URLs separately. What we can do here is that grab these guys, okay? And then just type right here, constant URLs. My goodness, constant URLs. is equal to array. Okay, constant URL is equal to array. And now instead of this putting it over here, what we can do URLs dot map. Okay, URLs dot map for each URL. Okay, the map returns an array, as we know, and the array of we're trying to get Axios dot get individual URL. It's basically same thing. Okay, it's basically the same thing. Instead of creating two separate, basically we're creating two, we're allocating some variables inside our memory, right? We can just combine those two separate variables into one as an array, and then based on the array, we can just create requests and put it over here. Cool. So yeah, don't keep in mind, Axios returns a promise. We have to deal with that promise with either async await or that then promise chaining. Okay.
Yeah. So do you use Axios of more often than fetch?
Do yes. Instead of fetch, we use Axios.
Okay. It's clear actually, yeah.
Cool. Let's take 10 minutes break and we'll come back. We'll continue.
Azamat, can I ask one basic thing about async? It's just to make sure I just try to Google. So if our the code reading from top to bottom, if our function is async, he's just skipping that function, right? If
Of course, yes.
if not, I think he will wait until that function will return something, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Just-
So do I have terminal over here?
Just to make sure. Thank you.
Yep. Well, anyway, yeah. Let's take a break. Oh, okay. I see people have joined a little bit late, but that's fine. All right, guys, how about we do a simple project, right? Using, again, we need to practice more on the user reducer, right? It's going to be kind of like a to-do list, okay? But we'll try to list out our to-dos, okay? Am I sharing this one? Well, instead of sharing this one, let me share this one with you guys. All right, so give me 1 second, guys. One second. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be a lot of editing. I apologize. I thought it's gonna be easy, but we'll try to get there. Okay. So now we don't need this right over here. Tasks.map. Okay, cool. I think we are over there now. All right, so let's return. Public, move to copy this URL. Cool. So your message is too long. Copy this URL, paste it over here. Interesting. Not able to copy the URL. Can you guys test it out if this one works for you guys?
Yeah, it works for me. I
Yes,
see.
it is.
Yeah, I see a input button. Yeah.
Cool. Yep. So yeah, let's try that link. So what we are trying to do is this application right here, right? So we're trying to achieve this guy over here. Okay. Inspect. I don't think I don't think I have anything in the console. So if I click, basically we are using reuse reducer, right? Okay. If I delete it, I delete it. If I add new task, I add new task, etc. Okay. We are using use reducer. And I just wanted to create the what do you call that? The boilerplate, so that we can continue without dealing with the CSS styling, etc. Okay.
Azamat, where are you getting these projects from? The prepared projects. Do you have some collection in your computer?
Oh, this project is from from, to be honest, from React documentation. You guys can definitely read the React documentation. I just got it from there. Okay, but I thought that it's gonna be very important to do it together. Okay, but it's in the documentation, guys. Don't worry about that. It's there, but I don't have any collection. I might have some collection in the Code Sandbox. A lot of previous projects.
In the
But if
previous class, you always have projects, always prepared.
yes, yeah, you definitely need to have a lot of projects, right? Also, mentioning about the projects, right? Let me show you guys something over here. I don't know why I did that, right? I don't know why I did that, but I created the note from the Microsoft Note, OneNote, okay? Something like this. And these are all the projects that we did together during our cohort, right? With our teammates, or with Kanibek, okay? Some of the projects, I think I say Ulan, for instance, he was a teacher. Axios fetching, right? There's a lot of stuff that we can do with the Axios. Oh, look at that. Well, this look at that. Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. This is what we did. And I just created this OneNote for myself, all the projects that we did, and kept it.
Sorry, in 21 you only learned about Axios, or you knew about it before?
No, I learned Axios in 2021. Yeah.
It's cool. Okay.
I just realized that 2021 was 3 years ago.
Oh, really? So new? I thought Yeah, I thought you. Okay, never mind.
It's not like a year or two, it's 3 years.
Yeah, I used to know JavaScript a little bit before. Okay, I was actually a Linux sysadmin. My background is a little bit the DevOps, but I was so curious about the UI websites, right? Writing codes. So I joined the CTEC and learned a lot of stuff from different instructors, especially Ulan, right? Ulan Rakamjana was a great instructor. He taught us about the backend too, right? I think I showed you guys how to deal with the backend applications too, right? So yeah, he told us a lot of stuff about Node.js, and we did a lot of projects in React. So React Redux counter with the Redux, it's it's so cool. I mean, yeah. So I forgot to mention you guys that usually we create the action types like this, okay, in a separate file. So what we did over here in user reducer, right? We were typing our action types like this, but what is important is to create action types in a separate file and then put that variable over here, right? You put that, you use that this variable, this increment, for instance, or decrement variable inside over here. So the thing about is that if somehow this fetch success changes, you have to come over here and then change this guy too, right? Fetch success one, or you're not only using this fetch, you might as well just using this dispatching this type of type action in some other components. Okay, so in that case, you have to go every single component and change these strings. But instead of that, we can just create action types.js file and put all of our action types inside here, and then export those and use in different components. So in that case, when I type fetch success, I don't have to type a fetch success. What I have to type here, I have to type the variable name that I created like this, right? The exported variable name. Just keep in mind.
No, I didn't get what do you need to type here if you want to get it from different component?
No, I'm trying to say that the create action types.js file and put all of your action types here, right? Increment, decrement, or for instance, this code right here, from here, edit, change it, delete it, etc. We can create action types over here. I'll try to show you guys when we go over this project here, okay? So, yeah, let me put this one back.
Azamat, you said when we learned memo, use memo, you said we're not gonna use that hooks very often, but you are trying to teach us use reducer really good. So how often do you use reducer in your projects? More often than memo and other stuff?
Yes, definitely. Well, for your small projects, yeah, you can, for your personal projects, you can definitely practice with the user reducer, okay? But of course, if you are joining a company, they will definitely probably implement that some other state management packages, okay? So something like a Redux, right? Because the companies have a large amount of data that they have to deal with. So they need to, if they have a React application, they might require, they might have some complex data, right? They might have some complex data. In that case, they're probably using a Redux or something like that. I don't think the companies are using, they might be some companies using UseReducer too, but most of the time it's either Redux or I also heard about the Mobex, something like that. So basically state management tools. Okay, so try to find out if there's different state management. Oh my goodness. Tools for React apps. All right, look at that. React state management tools. Redux, MobX, hook state, inside React component, Zoostan. I don't know what the context API, right? Can be also used. Local state is just a local state, right? Use state. 7 top React state management libraries. The first one is right? It's just, there's no surprise on that. Redux. It's been around since 2015, and actions and reducers, and you can have multiple reducers with Redux. Okay, you can combine those. So with use reducer, we only have one reducer function. All right. Cool. Well,
So
go ahead.
React and Redux, they both different libraries, right?
Yes.
But when we want to use them both together,
We just have to import the React Redux, the third package. You have to install it, just like we are installing Axios, right? And we are importing the Axios. Just like that, you have to download, install this React Redux package, and then use that React Redux package inside your application.
we have like syntax for React and different, I just guess, I don't know, different syntax for Redux. Will they conflict? Or или нам нужно внедрить Redux в React? Или как? Yeah.
Well, Redux is important. Can you repeat your question? Like,
У них разные, ну, в плане, допустим, for React разный синтаксис, то есть мы внутри return возвращаем HTML, разные теги. Ну, например, такие установки есть для React, и для Redux, наверное, свои шаблоны, как нужно писать код.
yes,
Есть
definitely.
использовать.
Just
Они
like,
прям, я просто даже не знаю, как они выглядят, поэтому.
yeah, don't worry about that, all right? Don't worry
Okay.
about how Redux implementation looks like. You guys will have time to absorb and try to learn the Redux. Okay, so don't focus on the Redux right now. Just focus on the hooks as much as possible, right? In this case, we're trying to practice right now. Use reducer, all right? So in this case, let's keep on going right now. What time is it? 6:30. I think we're good on that. Action types. Okay, I would like to take out my reducer function into its own component, and this action types too, maybe. Okay, let's just keep it there. And inside my reducer, reducer reducer functions. Okay, let's just call it reducer functions.js, and I will just put it there. So action types would be whatever I have over here. Okay, so edit, change it, delete it. Edit, change it, delete it. So constant edit, oops, edit, constant change it, constant delete it, to delete it. All right, export, edit, change it, delete it. Okay, so now instead of edit, we can use edit. All right, now we're importing that edit from action.types. Same thing for change it. Same thing for case, delete it. Okay, we're good on that. All right. So we have tasks, we have action, and how about we try to display our tasks in our component? I cannot answer your call right now. Cool. So we have tasks, and we're gonna pass our tasks down to tasks, right? What we have down here is we'll also pass down, we will create some functions for editing and deleting, okay? So we'll go back, and we already have the functions over here, handle add task and handle change task. So the handle add task will go down to our add task, on add task, we already did it, and handle change task will go down to our task list. Change task, handle change task, handle delete task. On delete task. Okay. And we are already, I believe, the task list already is grabbing those props already. Tasks on change task, on delete task. And we have UL. But before we do that, let's finish up with the add task first. And let's go back and open up our add task. What we have here is that we are receiving this on a task, right? On add task. That's the only function. Since we have input right here, I would like to create a local variable to keep up what? The change in our input. So the text use state, empty string. Okay. And now the value would be text, and we're gonna have on change, right? And inside the on change, we will directly use anonymous function with set text. Right, set text e dot target dot value. E dot target dot value. And now, as soon as I click add button right here, right over here inside this function, I would like to set my text back to empty string, right? Just to clear out this guy right here. And then with on add task, I need to send my text. All right, I need to send my text. So let's come back here on add task. We're getting our text down here. Console.log. Maybe just text itself. Okay, so I'm adding something over here and add click. Now I'm grabbing my text. So my text is over here. My text is over here. We're pretty much done with add task component. All right, whatever we have down into our app.js, we will do that now. So right over here, as soon as I get my text, what I can do is I can dispatch my this case, right? Edit. Okay, so what I can do here, I can dispatch my object, action object, which will contain type, right? The type would be, as I already exported, right, from action types, I'm using that variable name. I'm not using string anymore. Okay. So the type will be edit. You can either use payload, as I was saying, or instead of that, we can just use text. And text would be just a text. The text would be just a text. When I'm creating these guys over here, right? How can I think we did it already, right? So we can map through these initial tasks, okay? And then grab the next ID and just increase by 1. Right? Increase by 1. Or what we can do is we can utilize the package, as we know already, what was the package called? UUID. Okay, we can use this UUID. Every time we generate new ID, we will try to generate using that package. So type right here UUID and click enter. Now UUID is installed. And now let's see the usage, right? So we'll just import UUID. It's like that. All the way at the top, import UUID. And every time I, let's say this guy right here for now. Every time I click add function, I will create new UUID, right? Yeah, of course, I have to invoke this function. Sorry about that, guys. I have to invoke this function. So now, every time I click it, it is generating a very long ID for me, okay? So I'm thinking like, well, in this case, we don't have to use, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter whether we have number IDs right now or we have regular UIDs. Okay, so I'm dispatching this guy over here, and I would like to send my ID directly like that. So UUID version 4, generate the ID for me and send the ID. Okay, so what happens if comes down here to my action? My task is my initial tasks already, right? Initial tasks. And tasks reducer, I need to, let's just restructure our action and type over here. And at the same time, we have text and ID. Okay, depends on which switch case you're using. We will use that. Cool. So now,
Do we need done here?
that is for
Not here.
that's for you mean when we click this guy right here? Which one is that? This guy right here? Is it this one right here?
No, when we are creating, we setting ID, text, and we have the additional properties done.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying. We already have the done, yeah. I mean, that will be change it when we.
I mean, when we're creating from nothing, from zero. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Let's see how it goes, right? We'll try to figure out if something changes. So case edit. What am I returning over here? I need to return new array, right? Because my task is a new array. I mean, initially it's an array. Now inside the array, I need to grab the previous tasks. Okay, basically we're using spread operator to grab every single object over here. And now at the end, I will just add the new object, right? The ID will be the ID that I'm grabbing over here. Okay, and then the text would be the text that I'm grabbing over here too. Okay, and then done would be by default, let's just keep it as false. All right, let's just keep it as false. Since I don't have anything inside my the task list, it's not gonna show. Right? Let's try to finish out our task list, and then we'll try to add new tasks because right now we'll not be able to see in the UI. Why is this keep complaining? Let's see the ends. Okay, so it's not complaining about it anymore. So the task list. Okay, so let's see what we can do inside our task list. Inside our UL, we need to make sure tasks dot map, right? We already have a task, a single task that we can use inside our map. Okay, so for each task, we'll try to return. Okay, we'll try to return a single task. The task is okay. So the task is returning a label, right? So since we are creating UL and li, we can return li inside, and inside our li, we can return our task component. Okay, individual task component. So for this one, I need to add the key. The key is gonna be task.id. Come on, task.id. Task.text. Well, we'll get to that point, all right? So it's not able to read it out right now. No, it's gonna be task.id, and we need to pass the task. Okay, at the same time, we need to pass these functions over here. On change, on delete, right? So basically, this function comes over here, and this function comes over here. Well, we are able to see our tasks in the UI. Now, guy has done by default is true, right? That's why it is showing check mark. We're done with that task. All right, cool. So when it comes to the task, now the delete, right? On delete, what we can do here, we need to pass our ID, right? The task contains an ID. We need to pass our ID. So right over here, we click on delete and task.id. ID, we make some changes in our tasks array. Same thing for on change task. This input right here is the first one right here. Right, so I'm grabbing my my task is over here, and the task that done is basically the value for the checked is displayed based on the task that done. And right over here, I can just say on change task. Okay, on change task. So basically, when I'm sending out this function right here, okay, I mean, I can definitely do ID and right, I can send out event, I mean ID or task.id, right? At the same time, event dot target dot check. Okay, I can definitely do this one. Or instead of on change task, it's gonna be just on change. Okay, I can definitely do that, and then I can deal with that two arguments, right, inside my handle change over here. But I have another option where what I can do is instead of doing this one right here, I can send an object, right? It's going to be a new task, right? So grab remaining, the spread operator, grab remaining values from each task. And then what I'm changing over here is this guy right here only, right? This guy right here only. What I'm changing is that guy over there only. So for that, done would be e dot target dot checked. E dot target dot checked. So inside right here, case not case change it, handle change task dot log task. All right, so if I click this guy right here, onChange is not a function. So, and I'm seeing onChange. Did I not pass it down as onChange tasks? I should do onChange task. And inside my task list, onChange task, on delete task, onChange task, on delete task, onChange, on delete. I think should be all good. Yep, all good. Okay, so I'm getting my basically new task with the updated value true. Right? If I click this guy, visit Kafka museum done false. If I click it back, I mean it's by default it's true right now. I'm not changing anything, right? I'm just clicking this guy right here. We're trying to see what value we're getting when we click this guy. Okay, so what happens in the original project over here when I click this edit button? You guys remember from down project, right? To do when I click it, this guy will be changed to input, and my the value for my input will be placed the original data that I'm getting from the task itself, right? And when I click save, it will be saved. Okay, it will be saved. So let's just go back over here. I would like to have for each of these, right? This you guys can modify this thing, right? I mean, for our DOM to-do list, what we did was when I click edit, I was able to edit this one. But when I click this edit, right, this should be brought back to edit, and save should be removed. But for now, what we are trying to do over here is that you guys can definitely improve the functionality, as I was saying, but we're not going to do that. Okay, so what we are trying to do is, if I click edit this guy right here, I will be editing multiple inputs at the same time. Okay, I can edit this guy right here, this guy right here, this guy right here, and save it individually. Okay, it's working fine. But if you want, you can click edit one of them, and the remaining edits will be disabled, right? And if I click this edit, this should be brought back to like this, etc. All right, for now, just assume that we're only editing individual components. So for that, I would like to create a set variable called is editing. Okay, it's just a boolean with the use state. Oh my goodness, why is it always like that? Is editing, use state false. Right? Based on this is editing, I would like to change this task content. Based on this is editing. Okay, so initially I would like to create a state variable called just a test content, right? And then if statement over here, I want to say if is editing is true, if is editing true, what I would like to display is not of course this button edit. This task will be displayed when it's false. when it is editing is true, I want to display the save button. Okay, the save button. For the save button, of course, I need to do task content is equal to, I would like to have an input. Okay, at the same time, the similar button like this, but in this case, it's going to be save. Right? When I'm clicking save, I'm putting it back to false, but when I'm clicking edit, I'm putting it, I'm changing to true. Okay, so now I just don't need this guy over here. Am I?
You missed the closing one.
Why do I have this guy?
Mm.
Right, here we go. Okay, so if is editing is true, I want to display this input and button set is with the button save. If editing is false, then I would like to display task.text and the edit button. Okay, and we have task content. So what happens if I click now? This is what happens. This is what happens. But what's happening right now? We have not set the value over here. That's what's happening, right? If I click this guy, we're just basically resetting it, right? We're just basically resetting it. So what we are getting this task already, right? So for the value, I can just apply task.text and on change event, okay, with the function over here. Of course, we definitely need E because we're trying to get E that target that value, right? Or I have only one function over here, right? When I click this guy right here, I'm changing this done, okay? But at the same time, I can use the same exact function on change when I'm editing something, right? When I click save, I should be able to invoke that function again. Okay, I should be able to invoke that function again. So on change, just like I am using this guy over here, I will grab this guy, the whole thing. But what is changing over here? Instead of done, our text is changing. But instead of check it, it's going to be hit a targeted value. And now, similar to what I have for handle change task, of course, we are using exact same function right now. So that's why we are receiving the when we click this guy and tag when we click edit and click save. Now, as you guys can see right here, now I'm able to see my text. Okay, click save, put it back.
Yeah, excuse me, Azamat.
Right.
Can you explain why how you and why you put on change inside the on change?
Oh, the on change function is the function that we are getting from our the parent component. That's a prop. Okay. We're passing this tag and we're passing this on change task, and on delete task. I mean, the naming can be exact same thing. It doesn't matter. Right?
Oh, okay.
Or
What
we can-
is it? What is
it's a
that
it's a
function?
prop. So
Oh,
the
okay,
function
that's
is over
oh,
here.
yeah. Okay.
Function right here. So handle change task, passing down to task list, right? Handle change task. I mean, we're basically a little bit changing the prop, the naming of the prop, right? The right side is handle change task. The left side is on change task. When I come down to task list, I'm grabbing those functions and I'm passing again with a different name down to each task with on change.
Okay.
All right, so if it's confusing, you guys definitely put the exact same functions for each. Let's just do that. All right, so we'll just keep our functions in sync across all prop drilling. Oh, sorry. So on the lead task, it's gonna be only this guy right here. We're not caring about that one on change. Okay, now handle change and send out this one. And we have one more handle change over here. Cool. So I think we'd be good now. Except what is it? I cannot assign a task list.
It's an app.js file.
Oh no, sorry. Now we forgot to why I don't know why I changed both of them. Yep, we should be good now. I don't know how I changed that one. Interesting. Cool. My function that I created over here, the event, handle event, is just passing down to child components with the same exact naming. Okay. So yeah, if I click edit, I'm still being able to see it. So now I think the easiest part would be to deal with this handle delete task. Okay, so let's just try to implement this handle delete task. And what am I getting here? I'm getting the ID. Okay, what I'm dispatching? What's going to be my type? Deleted. All right, and ID is going to be just the ID. When I come to delete in my reducer, since I need to return what? A brand new tasks, right? It's going to be very simple. What I can return here is that tasks.filter. Okay, each task, and I will compare task.id not equal to whatever the ID I'm grabbing from my action. Okay, whatever ID I'm grabbing my action. All right, so now if I click delete, now it's all gone. If I refresh, of course, it's just the refreshing will initiate the whole project from the beginning, right? And I'm grabbing my initial tasks. So delete, gone, delete, gone, delete, gone. Now we were able to implement deleted. All right, what about to change it? What am I dispatching here? Type change it. Let's see what time is it. 7:04. I think we're good on that. Type change it. And we're just gonna pass the task as the task. Okay. We're grabbing the new task, right? Whether the done is changed or whether the text is changed. Whether the done changed or whether the change it. All right, cool. So now type change it, task, task. And of course, I need to grab the task from here. It's gonna be task. Cool. All right. It might change it over here. Again, same thing. Return. What I would like to return is new array. Okay, new array, but I would like to utilize with map, the higher order function. Okay, so tasks that map is also returning a new array, right? Tasks that map is also returning a new array, but we are going to be changing our the specific task with the ID. All right, so where do I grab the ID now over here? I need to make sure that I need to compare with the ID first. Okay, so if task ID, okay, task that ID is equal to which ID I need to compare. I'm not sending any ID over here, right? When I'm dispatching, I'm not sending any ID. But this task has what? This task has already an ID, right? Let me just do this one right here. Change it task, not the because it will be a little bit confusing when I put task.id is equal to task.id, right? Because it will be confused. If I send down the task, I will have action.task, but since I'm destructuring, if I compare, it's going to be task.id is equal to task.id. It will be confusing, complicated. It will be this task and this task, right? So instead of this task, I would like to change to change it task. So my change it task contains some ID, and I can compare that ID. Okay, if task.id, I'm looping through this tasks array with the help of map, and in each loop I'm comparing, right? If task.id, okay, change it task.id, I can return, right? Basically, I'm replacing whatever the object, the task that I'm returning, right? I can basically change my returning task. Okay. Else, just return the task itself. Oops, Control Z, this guy right here. You guys know it already, right? Is this confusing, guys, for you? What do you guys think?
No, looks like we like the same projects we built previous projects.
Right. So example, change it task. It's an object ID, for instance, 200. Text. Okay. This is my change it task, and I would like to utilize with the same initial tasks. Okay, so let initial tasks, this one right here. And if I would like to initial, so initial, why is not initial tasks? Let initial tasks is an array. Well, let's just say to let initial tasks to. I'm defining it. Why it's not showing it? Is it because I'm putting this guy right? No, this guy right here. Let initial tasks to. I think it's because of this Let's try over here. Yeah, here we go. Somehow that that console is belongs to Code Sandbox and it's not allowing me. Right, so now let me bring back my initial one right here. Right here.
Is changed case related to checkbox?
Is the change task is related to what?
Checkbox when we click done.
Yes,
I
it's
just
this
change.
the changed case is related to both of those, either checkbox and edit.
Oh, okay.
Right? When I click this checkbox, I'm only changing, right? When I click box, I am changing this guy right here. On change, do change task, and I'm returning a task with the done change it. With the done change it, either target that check it will be either false or true. But
And
when I'm updating my task, when I click save button, right? When I click save here, as soon as I click save button, right? I'm sorry. As soon as I click, yeah, when I click save button, I'm just changing my is editing state variable, okay? But when I when my is editing is true, I have this input here and type thing inside my input, changing text in this case. But the receiving, right? Receiving parameter for both cases, whether it's changing the checkbox or changing the text, I'm receiving a new task. And I would like to replace the existing task with this task. That's the whole idea we're trying to do, right? So initial tasks that map, I would like to replace this ID, right? This text or this whole object right here, the middle one, with the new one. The new one is change task. Okay, so T, let's say T, and we'll try to compare over here. If T dot ID is equal to 1, close it out, go down. Oops. Of course, I need to, come on, right over here. How do I go down? Yes, this one. So right to do return change a task. Okay, return change a task. Okay, cool. Now I close it. Otherwise, return T itself. All right, return T itself. And now I need to close this guy. And now I need to close this. This should be done. What I'm doing here is that you see right here, ID is 200, is change it. Initially, it was this guy ID 1, text, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm comparing the ID. If it's is equal to 1, basically change it task.id, right? If it's equal to change it task.id, then return this change it task. Otherwise, return the task itself. That's the whole idea, what we are doing over here. Tasks that map, task that ID to change task. All right, we're trying to find out if the ID is matching. As soon as we find out, then we're replacing the task with change task. And we're just, in other cases, we're just returning task. That's what we are doing over here. What's complaining? I don't know what's complaining about it right now. But yeah, so I click it, as you guys can see, my done is changed for this guy. Now it's change it back. Yeah, I'm toggling it. But same thing for this guy right here. If I do to save, now it's saved. I'm basically replacing it. If I click it, my new task is generated, right? My new task is generated, and while running this change it function again. My new task contains done is true, and now it's replaced by over here. This guy same thing, this guy same thing. If I edit, save, let's save. Delete is working fine, and edit is also working fine. Okay, any questions?
Actually, no. It's just need to remember everything. But it's clear.
No, don't say that. You don't have to remember everything, okay?
I
So you have
mean,
to just
I
understand.
understood, and I just have to remember that. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's what I would like to hear, okay? So we have to yeah, I mean, if you understand the logic, right, you
yeah.
should be able to implement everything. So it's similar to what we did basically in the DOM, but we're trying to implement new topics here, right? In this case, is use reducer. So everything goes through dispatch. Now, I have never done this before, but can we use two use reducers and two different reducer functions? It doesn't make sense to to use two use reducers, right? Because with a single state variable, we can handle all of the state state variables, right? But is it possible to generate two reducer functions with two use reducer like this? Can we do that?
In the same for the same page, for the same component.
Yes.
Are we gonna have the same state initial task?
That's a good point. No, you don't have to.
No. Yeah, in this case, of course.
Right? Initial tasks 1 and initial tasks 2.
Is it just experiment or we can do it in the real project?
Well, in the real projects, since we were saying that we don't have to use state if you're if you have a complex state object, right? In that case, we can use the use reducer. But you guys can definitely test it out if we can use if we can have a multiple use reducers in a single component, right? But yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about it. Okay, so I'm not gonna implement
Okay.
it. You guys implement it. But
Okay.
yeah, the more makes sense is just have a single, right? And then I mean, why would you have two different user reducers and two different tasks reducer? Maybe one tasks reducer, right? One reducer function can deal state variables that are related to each other. Okay, and then maybe the other reducer function will handle some state variables that are in a separate cases. Okay, I'm not
Yeah,
sure
that
if I
makes sense. It kind of logically divide into different.
logically divided. Yes.
Okay.
So in Redux, we can definitely have multiple reducer functions, right? But it's going to be all of them will be combined in a single. Okay, so for instance, in a Redux, everything will be combined in a store, and the store will contain, for instance, count reducer, okay, and it will contain a fetch reducer or something else, okay, something like that. So if you have multiple reducer functions, it will be combined into a single store, and it will be provided to all components like that in Redux. Yeah, but I was trying to implement the same logic in with the case of user reducer, right? With different reducer functions. Well, but you can definitely apply the same logic in using the user reducer with different reducer functions. Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too. So if you logically group it and use different,
Absolutely, yeah.
if
So
there is no
I was thinking
um,
like
kind of
uh,
limitation for that, yeah.
gonna be the tasks is fine, right? But the initial I for this one right here, the object and the inside count. Okay, so initial value for not initial tasks, initial count. And now you can have count reducer and put count reducer over here and initial count over here. And this is going to be count, blah, blah, blah. You can definitely do that. It's doable. Why not? Okay, cool. So I think we're much done with this one, right? So how about I divide you guys into groups, three in each group, and I would like to give you guys some tasks. I have 3 different tasks. Right? Basically, there are some issues that needs to be resolved.
Is it related to use reduce?
No, it's not related to reuse reducer. It's just in general component React component related problems. Okay.
Perfect.
Cool.
Can we start after break?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that.